Welcome to this second installment of a three-part series on Spain and Portugal. We begin our Iberian sojourn in the city of Barcelona. There is so much to explore in this bustling city that we will return in part 3 for a closer look and investigate the artistic genius of Antoni Gaudí. We'll take a special interest in the magnificent Sagrada Familia, Spain's most visited monument. Other highlights of part 1 included the museums and Royal Palace of Madrid, the cobblestone streets of Toledo, the amazing Mezquita of Cordoba, the architectural wonders of Alhambra, and the spectacular cliff-top location of Ronda. Now we depart Ronda for Seville, or in Spanish, Sevilla. Our exploration of Seville begins here at the Plaza de España, an amazing surprise as it is a beautiful semicircle of open space with horses and carriages sauntering by. The plaza's semicircular shape represents Spain embracing its former colonies, with a canal symbolizing the ocean connecting Spain to the Americas. The plaza is adorned with over 7,000 colourful ceramic tiles depicting historic events, provinces of Spain, and scenes from Spanish literature and mythology. Now we stroll through the cobblestone streets towards the Alcazar. The word Alcazar is Arabic for fortress. Built in the 11th century by the Moors, the Alcazar boasts columns, arches, and walls that are intricately carved and decorated. Because Islamic art never portrays actual people and animals, the ceilings are filled with ornate patterns that look like leaves, flowers, and stars. Adjacent to the Alcazar is the cathedral. It is in the precincts of this church that one can find the final resting place of Christopher Columbus. It's been a busy morning, time for tapas and the obligatory glass of sangria. This afternoon we stroll along the Guadalquivir River. It is the only navigable river in Spain. As we walk along, we come across a replica of the Victoria. The Victoria was one of the 5 ships of Ferdinand Magellan's fleet with which he hoped to find the Spice Islands. The expedition set sail from here in Seville in 1519. 3 years later, in 1522, the Victoria was the only ship to return to Spain, making it the first ship known to successfully circumnavigate the globe. The other ships were either destroyed, captured, or deserted. Of the more than 200 men who were part of the Magellan expedition, less than 20 returned to Spain aboard the Victoria. Alongside the river is Plaza de Toros de Sevilla. This plaza is the largest and most important arena for bullfighting in Spain. These statues are of Caro Romero and Maria de las Mercedes. Today we cross the border saying adios to Spain and hola to Portugal and the Algarve Coast. The resort town of Vilmora is a bit like Little Britain. This is where the British holidaymakers and retirees come to soak up the sun and relax. And the menus at the restaurants here seem to cater to British tastes. Instead of authentic Portuguese cuisine, there are steakhouses and Irish pubs offering all-day English breakfasts. But you can see why this beautiful and sunny region of the Algarve coast attracts holidaymakers from the colder parts of Northern Europe. One famous Brit who came here to holiday in the mid-60s was Paul McCartney. He supposedly wrote Yesterday here in the Algarve region, and the local guides here like to contemplate that this rock formation inspired him to write a very famous Beatles song. Can you guess which song it was? We are crossing the 25th of April bridge into Lisbon. Lisbon is the capital and largest city in Portugal. Our hotel accommodation is situated alongside this park. On our first afternoon in Lisbon, we wander off in search of a renowned art gallery called the Gulbenkian. The museum is named after a wealthy oil investor who in the 1930s escaped from Nazi occupation of Paris to settle in Lisbon. Here he became a great philanthropist who gifted his collection of artifacts and artworks to the city after he died in 1955. Tonight, scallopini at a local Italian restaurant. The next day finds us at Geronimo's Monastery, an architectural treasure from the 1500s. The monastery lies near the shore of the Tagus River. The great age of discovery began here, when the likes of Vasco da Gama set forth to find a navigable route to India around the African continent. The final resting place of Vasco da Gama lies here in this monastery. The monks who resided here prayed for and ministered to the mariners who set forth from here on their perilous voyages of discovery. Outside the monastery, one can see the Monument of Discovery. 52 metres in height, the monument symbolises a caravel headed by the figure of Prince Henry the Navigator, followed by a cortege of 32 leading figures from the Age of Discovery, including Henry the Navigator, Bartholomew Diaz, Vasco da Gama, and Ferdinand Magellan. Now we are heading by tram to a large square in the centre of the city. Lisbon's history dates back over 2,700 years, making it one of the oldest cities in Western Europe. The most cataclysmic event in its long history was the 1755 earthquake and tsunami that levelled the city. we visit St. Dominic's Church, which has survived earthquakes and fire. It has a beautiful chapel dedicated to Our Lady of Fatima, Portugal's favourite saint. Outside the church is a monument to the Jews who were massacred here in 1506. If you like, you can see Lisbon by tuk-tuk, or, like us, you can walk. As we stroll, we find an outlet for ginginha. Ginginha is a favourite liqueur of the Portuguese in Lisbon and is served in a shot glass. You can find these little hidey holes everywhere in Lisbon. Your drink comes with a little berry at the bottom of the glass. We chase it down with a pastéis de nata, a Portuguese tart. We are walking down Rua Augusta, which connects two of Lisbon's largest squares. One of Lisbon's most charming features is its historic trams. These vintage yellow trams have been rattling through the city's narrow, winding streets since the early 20th century. This is the Tagus River, which we first saw in Toledo, Spain. In the distance, you can see the Christ the Redeemer statue, modelled after its counterpart in Brazil. Lisbon is a hilly city, and there are a number of ways to ascend these hills. You can use an elevator or a tram, but in our case, we choose to walk. We have wandered aimlessly, and without knowing it, we have discovered one of the best vantage points from which one can survey the city, a fitting climax to our walking tour. It's been great. Today, we are taking a day trip to Sintra. We are driving up this roadway through a remarkable forest setting to a phantasmagorical palace called Palazzo de Pina. The palace was once a monastery, but was acquired and restored by King Ferdinand XI into this vividly coloured palace. It comes complete with mythical monsters, striking colour schemes, and decorative battlements. The interior is equally fascinating, having been restored to how it was in 1910 when Queen Amelia spent her last night here before fleeing to Brazil at the start of the Portuguese Revolution. Returning to Lisbon, we decide to check out the most westerly point of the European mainland, Cabo da Roca. This enormous swell is coming to us courtesy of Hurricane Kirk, which was recently in the area. Now we are stopping at the charming coastal town of Cascais. This town is just a short drive or train trip back to Lisbon. Today we make the long haul from Lisbon to Porto, but to break up the journey we will call in at Coimbra. This is Coimbra. It was once the capital of Portugal during the Middle Ages. It reminds me of Lisbon, but without the scale. This is a mini Lisbon. Less crowded and easier to navigate, although it's just as hilly. And like Lisbon, has a riverside setting. So I'm walking up to Coimbra's venerable university at the top of the hill. I wasn't sure how to pronounce the name of this city, so I asked a beautiful guide called Barbara how to pronounce it.
Coimbra. There's also a song. Coimbra tem mais encanto na hora da despedida.
Oh, stop, I'll fall in love with you.
No.
Stop.
Let's take a walk through the old town with its meandering streets, shops that are generations old, and tiny taskers, little family-run eateries. These narrow streets ventilate the city and shade pedestrians from the sun's harsh rays. And at the end of every walk, a sangria awaits. We've arrived at the Douro River. No hotel accommodation for us tonight. We are bedding down for the next 7 nights aboard the Estrela, the Star of the Douro. On our starboard side is the city of Porto, and on our port side, the city of Gaia. These boats, uniquely designed for the Douro River, once carried wine barrels downstream to Porto. They are rabelos, pardon my pronunciation. Your essential Portuguese phrases while you are here include obrigado, thank you, obrigada if you are female, bom dia, good day, boa tarde, good afternoon, vossa fala inglês? Do you speak English? Hola, hello. A conta, the bill. There are rain clouds gathering over our heads, remnants of Hurricane Kirk. When the rain comes down, we are fortunate to be able to take shelter in a wine cellar, and it's a highly esteemed cellar called Taylor's. Of course, Porto is fabled for its port wine, a highly fortified style of wine, usually having a sweet flavour. This is drunk at the end of a meal when dessert is being served. When it was first conceived, the British became fond of port and are great consumers. This ornate building is the Palazzo de Bolsa, a former stock exchange building. It's not a palace for royalty, it's not a great cathedral, it is a monument to commerce. Porto prides itself on being a vibrant centre of entrepreneurial nous. Merchants and businessmen have generated vast wealth here, so this building celebrates commercial ingenuity. The style of music you are listening to is called fado. And now I have to speak about the central theme of fado music. They say there is no single word in English that can explain the mood or feeling that fado music evokes, but there is a Portuguese word. Word is saudade. What does it mean? It's a word that describes a profound emptiness of the soul for something or someone that has been lost and is no longer present. Someone humorously tried to tell me the difference between flamenco and fado this way. A central theme of flamenco might be, if you leave me, I will kill you. But in fado, that theme becomes, if you leave me, I will die. So fado is about the intense longings of the human heart. We have sailed upriver and docked at a port called Entre Rios, a small picturesque village. This afternoon, our shore experience is to visit a vineyard or quinta. Quinta da Avelida is a family business that has been producing fine wines since 1870. Quinta da Avelida is also renowned for its magnificent gardens. In the heart of the Vinho Verde region, Vinho Verde refers to Portuguese wine that originated in the historic Minho province in the far north of the country. A wine cannot be classified as Vinho Verde unless it has originated from this region in the far north of Portugal.
In the shop we have something that you can try in the tree.
Happy days! Woohoo! The next day finds us cruising dreamily upriver towards our first lock. Look how narrow the lock is. The crew are all along the side, helping the helmsman steer a straight course. We enter a cavernous vault. It seems to swallow us whole. The lock is situated within a dam wall. Dams like this one have a dual purpose. They provide hydroelectric power to the northern parts of Portugal, but they are also built to tame the formerly dangerous Douro. The Douro had once been a river with a fast current and many rapids and was dangerous to navigate. Ribellas boats that used to transport wine down to Porto were often wrecked on the rocks. Now the Douro is a deeper and more tranquil river thanks to the dams. Now, as if we're in a dreamlike trance, we relax and watch the scenery drift by. I'm going to let Barbara, our guide, pronounce the name of this town.
Régua. Régua.
We visit another vineyard or quinta with unique accommodation, wine barrels. We learn about traditional winemaking methods and have an extravagant meal. But I sneak out. I want to photograph the splendid scenery that's all around. Tonight we are entertained by a traditional Portuguese folk group. Their music seems to be more joyful than the fado music we heard in Porto. This is the town of Lamego. It sits beneath the Mount of St. Stephen, at the top of which is a shrine dedicated to Our Lady of Remedies. A staircase consisting of 680 steps leads one to the shrine. Pilgrims from all over Portugal come here to this shrine, some of whom climb these stairs on their knees. So, if you feel burdened by guilt and wish to be relieved of your sinfulness, you can be a penitent who climbs up here on their knees. Or you can take the bus. In the next and final episode in this series, we will continue cruising up the Douro River. We will explore the amazing terraced vineyards around Pinhao. At the Spanish border, we will visit Castelo Rodrigo, an authentic historic village. We will visit the lively university city of Salamanca. Then it's on to Madrid to take a grand walk around the city. Thence to the Costa Brava to explore the fortified coastal town of Tossa de Mar. Then we'll travel up beyond the clouds to the majestic monastery of Montserrat. Thence to Barcelona to check out Park Güell and the magnificent Sagrada Familia inside and out. I'll see you then.